Welcome back to another conference tournament prediction video, and today we are finally doing the SEC, the best conference in college basketball throughout the entire season. They're going to break the record for the amount of teams they get into the tournament. Now, will it be 12? Will it be 13? Will it even be 14? We don't know. How many one seeds will they get? It's looking like 2, but I mean, there's realistically 4 teams that I think have a chance to get a 1 seed. This is a crazy conference this season. I mean, maybe the best conference we've ever seen. This season in the SEC is arguably, I would say, in my opinion, the best conference that of all time this season. I think it's that good. And starting off in the 9-16, Arkansas versus South Carolina. The SEC, there is some rough teams. The bottom 2 teams, South Carolina and LSU, really aren't that strong, so I'll take Arkansas. I mean, they have, I think, wrapped up a spot. I mean, they've gotten some decent wins recently, and I think, with the way they've been playing, I think they will get into the tournament. They've been a bubble team, but they've won 4 of their last 5 games against pretty good teams, actually, beating Missouri, Texas, Vanderbilt, and Mississippi State. I think that should be enough. Thero for them is averaging 16 points a game, and Coach Cal, obviously, we know what he can do, so I like them over South Carolina pretty easy. The 12-13 Vanderbilt versus Texas. This one is very interesting. You have Texas, who is really just Trey Johnson, it feels like, all by himself. I mean, that dude is absolutely ridiculous. Besides him, though, not the greatest. Texas seems like recently they just can't buy a win. I mean, they're 6-12 in conference, 17-14 overall record. And they've lost 4 of their last 5 games, all to bubble teams. I mean, losing to Arkansas, Georgia, Oklahoma. They also lost to South Carolina pretty recently. You can't be doing that. If you look at their last 9 games, they've lost 7 of their last 9. Trey Johnson, yes, he's been amazing, but I like Vanderbilt. They're a scrappy team and can really beat anyone in this conference. They have a great turnover margin. I like Vanderbilt. I just think they're the more complete team. They have a top 25 offense, and they're slightly higher than Texas in Torvik, so I like Vanderbilt. Mississippi State versus LSU, kind of the same thing with the Arkansas-South Carolina game. I like Mississippi State pretty easy. LSU just isn't a good team this season, and I'm actually not too big of a fan of Mississippi State. I think they're a bit overrated, but I will say Josh Hubbard, great player for them, and I don't think they lose to LSU. The 11-14 game, Georgia versus Oklahoma. Now, both of these teams have recently been on the bubble. Georgia is probably on the right side in right now. I mean, they have went on an absolute tear, winning 4 games in a row against Florida, at Texas, who is another bubble team, and then home against Vanderbilt, as well as winning in South Carolina in there. Throughout the season, Georgia's picked up some decent wins. They've beaten Kentucky earlier this season. They've played some good teams very close, only lost to Auburn by 2. I think this Georgia team is really solid. I like their chances here. With Oklahoma, I could see them actually winning this game. Jeremiah Fears, 16 points a game. He's been absolutely amazing. And they have won 2 in a row over Missouri and at Texas. That was a huge win for them. And you could argue that if they lose this game, they may not get into the tournament, which may be true, so it might be a must-win game for Oklahoma. But I think Georgia is just the more complete team. I mean, Georgia's all the way up at 26 in Torvik. They have a top 50 offense, a top 25 defense. They defend the 3 very well. They offensive rebound very well. And Oklahoma shoots, a lot of their offense does come from three-point land. Again, Jeremiah Fears, great player. I could see them winning, but I like Georgia. This conference is ridiculous. I don't even know how to put it into words how good this conference is. The 8-9 game, Ole Miss versus Arkansas. Can Arkansas continue with a win against Ole Miss? I think that would secure, if it's not already. I think it probably would have already been secured. I think Ole Miss does get the win. I just think they've been the more consistent team all season. I mean, Arkansas, top 20 defense, but 90th in offense. I don't love that. I will say, this Arkansas team does have potential. They play at a fast pace. They have a lot of guys who are a very talented team, obviously. But I like Chris Beard and Ole Miss. They're a solid team, top 30 in offense, top 40 in defense. Their turnover margin's one of the best in the SEC. Um, they struggle rebounding at times, but I think Ole Miss against Arkansas, they should be fine here. Ole Miss has really just been a solid team all season. Um, and recently they just beat Tennessee. They just played Florida. I think Arkansas is a bit of a refresher here to get them on the right track. They won the only game they played in the regular season, and that was on the road. This will be at a neutral site, so I like Ole Miss. Texas A&M versus Vanderbilt. Like I said, I think Vanderbilt can really beat anyone in this conference, except for maybe a few teams. But we've seen that throughout the season. I mean, they have knocked off some really strong teams in this conference. Looking at their schedule, they have a win over A&M on the road. They have a win over Missouri. Those were both, by the way, very recently. They beat Ole Miss. They beat Kentucky earlier this season. So, like I said, I mean, they beat Tennessee. This Vanderbilt team can really beat anyone. They have one of the best turnover margins. Them and Ole Miss, probably the two best teams in terms of turnover margin. I mean, they can take care of the ball. They have a top 25 offense. The only problem with Vanderbilt is that they don't defend the three very well. But I will say, fast-paced team taking care of the ball. Against A&M, though, I don't know. A&M's a really good team. They're 25th in Torvik. A&M, number one offensive rebounding team in the country. I will say they don't shoot a crazy amount of threes, so I think if I could see Vanderbilt winning this game, but A&M just beat Auburn. They have a top 10 defense. I can't go against that. Wade Taylor's been amazing this season. I think A&M is the better team, and I don't see them losing first round. Although Vanderbilt really could do it. Like I said, they can beat anyone. Missouri versus Mississippi State. I said this. I don't really love Mississippi State. They're an offensive focused team, top 25 offense, but they don't shoot threes very well, and they don't defend the three very well. Against Missouri, who is one of the fastest-paced team, a very fast-paced team, fourth in offensive efficiency. Another thing, they take care of the ball really well. You see a lot of these teams, fast-paced, Kentucky, Alabama, offensive-heavy teams, they turn the ball over. Missouri doesn't do that. Mark Mitchell has been amazing this season. They get to the free throw line. I just think three-point shooting-wise, they have enough over Mississippi State, and I think offensively, they're just the better offense in this one. Kentucky versus Georgia. I've seen some people taking Georgia in this one. I don't know, man. I like Kentucky. I know they're very inconsistent, but a lot of that has to do with injuries. I think they should be able to beat Georgia. I mean, they shoot the three very well. They're a fast-paced team, top 10 offense in the country. Georgia is a solid defense, and, they defend the three pretty decent, but they turn the ball over a lot. They don't force a lot of turnovers. And when you're playing against a team like Kentucky, who's going to play fast and will turn the ball over, I don't really like that matchup. Not forcing turnovers when Kentucky, that's a lot of what they do. Maybe that brings it down a little bit. Kentucky is in more control of their fast pace, and I think they do beat Georgia here and move on. Alabama versus Ole Miss. I just realized we have not taken an upset yet. I mean, I'm telling you, man, the SEC might give 14 teams in the tournament. It's ridiculous. But I haven't taken an upset yet, and that's not going to change here. Auburn has lost 2 in a row, which is kind of crazy. I mean, they've been the number one overall seed pretty much the whole season. They probably still are. They're 27-4, 15-3 in conference. I don't see them losing to Ole Miss, though. I believe Ole Miss actually earlier in the season did play Auburn pretty close, if I'm not mistaken. But, in their most recent matchup, Auburn won by 30. I don't see a world where Auburn loses 3 games in a row. They have the number one offense in the country and a top 15 defense. This team is too good to lose this early, so I like them. Tennessee versus A&M, 2 very strong teams. Could see this one going either way, 2 defensive teams. But I think Tennessee is better defensively. I also think they're better offensively. I think they have the depth advantage in this one pretty clearly. And, both these teams are going to want to slow the game down. Texas A&M doesn't defend the three very well. They also don't shoot the three very well. Tennessee, on the other hand, they let the other team. This is weird. You don't see this often. They have one of the lowest three-point rate defenses, but they're second in three-point percentage defense, which is really, really strange. But Tennessee takes care of the ball. They're a veteran team. Chaz Lanier, Zakai Ziegler, they got a bunch of guys. I think their depth in a physical defensive game, I think that'll get them through to the semifinals. I mean, in a physical defensive game, I feel like some guys could get into foul trouble. I don't know. Texas A&M is a little one-dimensional offensively sometimes. Tennessee did go in there to A&M and beat them a couple weeks back. I think Tennessee does it again. I think they move on. Florida versus Missouri, two very strong offensive teams. I think the difference here is the defense for Florida. They have the 12th ranked defense in efficiency compared to Missouri at 75th. I just think Florida's on an absolute tear right now. I mean, they have been so strong as of recently. They've won 3 in a row against A&M at Alabama and then blew out Ole Miss. And before that, I mean, they've won 9 of their last 10 games with a win over Auburn on the road in there. And their only loss is at Georgia by 5 points, who was desperately in need of a win at the time. Walter Clayton Jr. is one of the best guards in the country. I just think Florida does everything Missouri does, but better. I like their chances in this one. And then Alabama versus Kentucky. I think you can say the same thing that I just said about Florida and Missouri with this game. I feel like Alabama just does everything Kentucky does slightly better. I actually wanted to go Kentucky here. I really did think about it. But they have lost Jackson Robinson for the year, I believe. They've been so injured. I just can't trust it. They're too inconsistent. Alabama just went into Auburn and beat them. You could argue maybe they're peaking right now at the wrong time, but I don't know about that. I mean, the most recent games they played at Tennessee, they lost by 3. They played against Florida, lost by 5, and then they went into Auburn and did win by 2. They've had an absolute gauntlet of a schedule as of recently. And in their 2 games against Kentucky this season, they've won. And the most recent one was in convincing fashion. They won by 13 points. I think Alabama just does everything Kentucky does better. I mean, offensively, they're better. They play at a faster pace. Both these teams like to turn the ball over a lot, just by nature of them being at such a fast pace. I think Alabama shoots maybe a little bit better from 3, and I just think they're the more complete and better team. I like them to move on. Again, we still haven't picked an upset yet. I promise there will be something here. Auburn, Tennessee. This game is very interesting to me because at first glance, when I first saw this bracket, I thought Auburn is going to win. I think they're the best team in the country, and you could argue that. But then I looked into some things. Auburn at home against Tennessee way back in the season won 53-51, just barely. It was a back and forth game, close game. I think Tennessee goes out and beats them, and here's why. One, it's very hard to beat a good team twice. I know Auburn is an amazing team, and if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be them. But we know what we're going to get in this game. It's going to be a low-scoring game. If it's anything like the first one, Tennessee has the better defense. I know Auburn has the number 1 offense. I know, but it's going to be a slow-paced game. We know this. Tennessee, I think, Zakai Ziegler. Say all you want about Rick Barnes in the tournament. This is the SEC tournament. I think he gets Auburn a second time. Auburn's lost 2 in a row. Maybe are the wheels starting to fall off a little bit? I would argue not, but I actually think with Tennessee winning this game, it actually is what Auburn needs. I mean, because going into the tournament, they'll have lost 3 of their last 4, and I feel like a lot of people will start to fade them. I think Bruce Pearl can really benefit from that, so this is not a knock at Auburn. I think Auburn is probably the best team in the country still, by the way. Just want to get that out there. But I think Tennessee matches up well in this one. I think they win. Again, Janai Broome, Todd Pettiford, Chad Baker-Mazara, all the stuff he's got going on. Don't love that, but he is a really good player. I just think Tennessee, I don't know. I think Tennessee, I like their chances in a second time around against Auburn. And then Florida versus Alabama. 2 high-powered offenses. I think the difference here is the defense for Florida. Alabama just leans into that offense a little too much sometimes. Florida did just go into Alabama and beat them 99-94. I just think Florida's overall the better team. They've been on an absolute tear as of recently. Alabama is probably a little beat up after how many ranked teams they've played in a row. It's been ridiculous. And Alabama just turns the ball over way too much for my liking. Florida also forces a lot of turnovers. And, I think their offense is very capable of keeping up with Alabama. Alabama ranked third in offense. Florida's right behind them at 5. And then they're 20 spots ahead in defense. I think they're overall the better team. But, by the way, these two teams 4th and 5th in the country overall. And Tennessee is 6th, right there as well. And that sets up a 2 versus 4, Florida versus Tennessee. I did not expect to take Tennessee. Um, I really just didn't, to be honest. But here we are, Tennessee versus Florida. Who gets the SEC? This will likely be for a 1 seed, by the way. Whoever wins this, I think, would get a 1 seed. Alabama would probably get a 2. Auburn would still get a 1, maybe the number 1 overall seed still. But this will likely be for the 4th number 1 seed. Who wins? I just think Tennessee offensively can struggle at times. I think Florida's so hot right now. Now, you could argue this may be bad for them. They could be peaking at the wrong time. But, man, Walter Clayton Jr. is just so good. Alex Condon just had a great game for them. I mean, Florida is an absolutely loaded squad, and so is Tennessee. I mean, the SEC, like I said, Auburn can win, clearly. A&M can even win. Tennessee can win. Kentucky, well, maybe not because of the injuries, but at their full strength, they can. Alabama for sure. And there's plenty of sneaky teams down there. Um, but I like Florida. I think they're playing the best right now. And I just think that 5th in offense, 12th in defense over the whole season, and not to mention they're playing their best right now. Like I said, I think Florida wins. I think they get that last number 1 spot. But again, you could argue this could be a negative for them. But if you're a Gator fan, you obviously want to win the SEC. I'm not trying to bring you down, but I think Florida wins. I think they're my pick right now. But again, I could see so many different teams winning and even making a crazy run in this tournament. But that is going to do it for the SEC tournament predictions, the best conference in college basketball all season. If you're new around here and you made it this far, make sure you go down there, subscribe, turn on the noties to make sure you don't miss. We're still posting. We got a couple more conference tournaments to go, but we will be wrapping up here soon. And then make sure you check out our previous ones. We got almost all 31 out now. Yeah, great time to be a part of the channel. Go down there, hit that subscribe button. We do college basketball, college football, NFL, NBA, and MLB as well. So if any of that interests you, one last time, just make sure you go down there, subscribe. We're trying to have 1,000 by the end of the year. But with all that being said, that is going to do it. Hope you guys enjoyed this one, and thank you so much for watching.